Thank you, everyone. Hi, I'm Josh Brumley. Thank you for joining us. Please come on in. We've got goodie boxes. If you guys didn't already grab a box, Simone, just wave your hand. If you haven't already grabbed a box, we want to make sure we don't have to carry them back to the car. So this one doesn't have a book in it either, if you can put a book in that one. Raise your hand if you've got a copy of the book that we distributed. Awesome, thank you. So this book is a little bit more detailed than the speech that I'm going to give today, but it goes over everything you need to know about being in a car accident before you're in one. And a lot of people just assume if there are no broken bones, I don't need to call the police, I don't need to get insurance involved, let's just figure it out, it's just a scrape on my car. And I've heard that a lot of times, but I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Did you know that there are people who will crash into your car, tell you it's okay, we'll work it out, send you a text message, they'll drive away, go a block away, and then they call police and say you hit them and that you fled the scene. And there's nothing that I can do as your attorney to fix that after it's occurred. If you don't call the police when the accident occurs, you're preventing yourself from getting real important evidence to protect yourself after whatever happens. So that's, I guess, the first takeaway from this speech, and we're going to go into a lot more detail, but let's talk a little bit about who I am. So as you heard from the introduction, I'm from Tacoma. I actually went to Curtis High School. I went to University of Washington, Tacoma, and got my bachelor's degree. Dean Althoff Merchant was my marketing professor at the time, and now he's the dean of the entire business school. And I actually am going to be teaching business law next quarter here. So I get to teach at the school I graduated from. Very excited about that. The path after graduating from University of Washington led me to Florida. I got into a law school down there and did a dual degree program where I got my law degree and my MBA at the same time. Still very business-minded person. Hopefully that's something that resonates with you guys, but if not, it's something that I'm very passionate about, happy to talk about running my own business, running the businesses that I ran before doing my law firm. And after graduation, I came back to Washington where my entire family is. I took the bar here and decided to open my own practice almost immediately. It was incredibly difficult to run my own law firm with no network here. Like I said, I went to law school in Florida, so I had to meet people. I had to build that network here. And the University of Washington and the community of Tacoma was incredibly important for that growth. So if you're not thinking about what you're going to do after graduation, coming to events like this, networking with speakers, networking with other students, incredibly important because you don't know what doors you're going to need opened and what people are going to be recurring in your life, like Dean Althoff Merchant. So I opened my own firm. I practiced as a public defender for 10 different cities in Washington. I was a family law attorney. I did divorces, parenting plans, guardianships. I did a bunch of trials in that world, and I had to collect money from my clients for my services. And that was really difficult because I think I'm a really nice guy and I wanted to help people, but I also had staff and bills. And when you have staff and bills, you can't just tell people, hey, I'll do it on the house. So there was a lot of people and a lot of need, but the people who needed me the most couldn't afford my services on a regular basis. So I did a lot of pro bono work, I did a lot of low bono work, and then I started doing car accident work. Does anyone know, raise your hand if you're willing to be called on, what's the difference between car accidents and the other areas of law as far as collecting money? Do you know? If no one else knows, I'll call on Simone, but she's my plant in the audience from my law firm. So raise your hand if you've ever heard the term contingency fee. All right up front in purple. What's contingency fee mean?
I've heard of it, so that's a question, right?
Best try to define it.
So I guess it's when you agree to a certain percentage, 33%, right? And
Yes.
then after the settlement, you pay all the fees, and then 33% of the settlement goes to the attorney.
That's wonderful. That is more thorough than I expected from someone who said they didn't know. But the answer to the question, contingency fee means you don't pay unless I collect money. So at the beginning of the case, when you retain an attorney on a car accident, you don't pay any money. It's one of the very few areas of law where you get legal representation on the idea that there will be a payment for that attorney at the end of the case. Family law doesn't do that. Criminal defense doesn't do that. Breach of contract doesn't do that. Car accidents, civil law like this is one of the very few areas where the rules of professional conduct allow attorneys to charge this way. And the percentages are pretty much set in stone by the industry. So if you called my firm, you'd hear that we charge 33 1/3% of whatever money we recover at the end of your case. And if you called 100 law firms in Washington, they would tell you the exact same price. So that's really important, because if you're trying to decide after a car accident, should you get an attorney, the first question I think a lot of people have is, how much is this going to cost? And the cost is nothing. You get a free consultation. You sign a fee agreement that says, if I recover $0, I get $0. But the worst case scenario is you get legal advice from someone who normally charges $300, $400 an hour for their time for free. You can do it on Zoom. You can do it over the phone. There's no harm in calling an attorney after every single motor vehicle accident or friend's motor vehicle accident or whatever, and just getting that free advice. So think about that. We have the police report to make sure you're protecting yourself from people who are going to mislead. And you have the free advice of an attorney and the free work of an attorney if you do have a viable case up until the end of the case. At the end of these cases, I just present you with a check and you spend that money on whatever you'd like. If you want to buy a new car, that's great. If your car was already fixed and you like your car and you want to buy a trip to Italy, do that. All your medical bills are taken care of by my firm. My attorney's fees are taken care of by my firm. And the difference is a check that you receive at the end of your case. Raise your hand if you think you can recover money, even if it's just a fender bender. Raise your hand if you think there needs to be significant injuries, or if a fender bender, something that's a scrape on a bumper, could recover money for you. Yes, you think you can recover money from a fender bender. Is that what you're saying? I think you're right. Absolutely. I recently did a full-on jury trial where my client had a scrape on his bumper. He was injured, but he had a scrape on his bumper, and I got him $26,000. And that was in February of this year. He had an intervening work injury. We would have got him a lot more if not for the workplace injury kind of muddying up his treatment. But yeah, so I think that's another real significant misunderstanding of what we do here. People think there has to be catastrophic injuries to sue for negligence. But negligence just means this person had a duty to follow the rules of the road. They breached that duty, and that breach of that duty caused damages. What those damages are could be property damage to your car, could be medical bills, could mean wage loss. Maybe you were on your way to work, and now you can't go to work that day because you were in a car accident. Raise your hand if you have a medical degree. Anyone in here a medical doctor? All right. So after a car accident, how do you know you're not actually hurt without talking to a doctor? You just assume you know your body, there's no pain? Pain is a symptom of an injury. But there are injuries that cause pain later. And if you're not being checked out by a doctor after these accidents, you're potentially leaving the person who caused this accident, you're preventing yourself from recovering money for medical treatment caused by the person that caused this accident. So think about it like this. The healthcare system is very expensive, right? If you have medical insurance, you can see a doctor regularly. Not everyone in this country does have medical insurance. So if there's an opportunity for you to be checked out by a doctor after your motor vehicle accident, and you don't pay any money for that, seems like a no-brainer, right? So you get a police report to make sure that liability is clear. If you're not the at-fault party, you want a police officer there, the police officer will make sure that liability is clear. Whoever was the at-fault driver will likely be cited. Then you talk to an attorney, and you guys know that contingency fee means you don't pay any money up front. You pay after the attorney recovers money for you. And then you go see a doctor. And that doctor bill is held, it's held until the end of your case. You don't pay money to see the doctor. The attorney pays the doctor bill at the end of their case, like Maria said. Contingency fee means we take a percentage of the recovery. So if I recover $100,000 and your medical bills are $25,000, I pay that out, I pay the attorney's fees, and I give you the difference. Seems like a no-brainer to get free medical care, to get free attorney work, and to make sure that the person who hit you doesn't say it was you that hit them later. But so many people just don't understand this process. So if you get bored and have a hard time falling asleep this weekend and you want to read through that book, I think it'll go into glaring detail about the car accident process. But this is my book. It was recently listed as an Amazon bestseller. Give it up. No? Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. Oh, I didn't even have to ask. Thank you, guys. This book was inspired from me going through a car accident when I was a UW student. So I was driving to Taco Bell. Give it up for Taco Bell. No? Okay. Taco Bell after a break between classes. College student, 99-cent burrito. Made sense that day. This car just, without looking, pulls out right in front of me. I'm going 40 miles an hour on Orchard down there and totals my car. First car accident I'd ever been in. No one had ever talked to me about car accidents before. My family was like, I don't know, call an attorney. I guess that's what you do. But that was all the feedback I got from my family. The attorney that I worked with, a famous attorney in the area at the time, just the first one that came up on Google when I searched for one, didn't really explain the process to me. He didn't really explain what my role was in the process. And that left me kind of just unsure, you know? And that really weighed on me, and after going and completing my undergrad here and going to law school and getting out of law school and becoming a public defender, that was something that I never wanted to happen to my clients. So I spent a lot of time as a public defender in one-on-one conversations saying, this is what you should expect. Don't worry, you're not going to go to jail today. I can't guarantee that, but with a 99% certainty, unless you flip a table and give the judge the finger, you're not going to go to jail today. This is a very small thing for the judge, and this is what is exactly going to happen. And to understand the process helped my clients to feel a lot more confident going through the process. And that was something that I think was a strength of being a public defender, that now I've transitioned into this world of personal injury. And so the book is one part of that explanation that my clients get from me. Separate from that one-on-one time, they have a resource that they can refer to at midnight if they're having a hard time sleeping that says, this is what a deposition is. This is what you should expect if your case goes to litigation. And this is what you should expect for an outcome that's fair. Because people don't know what a fair outcome is in these cases. So my goal is to empower people with that knowledge before they need it. Whether they use me as their attorney or not, it doesn't matter to me. But to understand that in this industry, the insurance companies have a vested interest in keeping the money in their bank account, not paying it to you just because you were injured. So they will always, always, always be the better negotiator than you for these car accidents, and you need someone to advocate for you. So raise your hand if you've ever been in a car accident. Has anyone here been in a car accident? Simone? All right. Couple people, all right. After you were in the car accident, did you call 911? Yes? 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 Great. That's very uncommon. I think when we see photos like this, you expect to call 911. You're blocking traffic, you need tow trucks, all that. But I want to really focus your guys' attention on understanding that minor car accidents are still car accidents, and they can cause liability to you if they're not handled properly. Your license can be suspended if they're not handled properly, and you have to pay the other person's debts for this car accident if it's not handled properly. So get the police involved. Even if there are immigration consequences, you're not at risk in Washington State for being worried about something like that. The police won't ask you about immigration issues. If you need a translator, the police will make sure you have a translator, and they'll get your side of the story in a police report that later can be used as evidence for your case. Document the scene. Make sure you're taking photos and videos of not just how the cars came to rest, but the streets that the cars are on. I believe I'm the only lawyer in the state of Washington that has this, but I'll not brag too hard, so I might be the only lawyer. In our firm, we have an accident reconstruction artist who makes a video reconstruction of every accident where liability is an issue. So if the insurance company for the other driver says you're at fault, my office makes a video that recreates the accident based on your testimony, and we send that video to the insurance company and say, listen, this is how our client is going to testify about how this accident occurred, and if you want to make a video, insurance company, we know that it costs you about $10,000 to make one of these videos. It doesn't cost us that much, because I do it in-house. But that's my business mind. But the insurance companies know that if they want to make a video to counter that video that we've created, they've got to spend $10,000. It's less expensive for them to just say, okay, never mind, we admit we're at fault. Even in situations where you might have been stopped at a red light and rear-ended while at a complete stop, I've had insurance companies say it's 50-50 liability. It doesn't make any sense. And there's no case law that supports this. They just do it to see if you'll go away. They do it, and people do go away because they don't know what their rights are. So document the scene. Understand that the photos that you're taking might end up in front of a judge. The photos need to include street signs. Look around, see if there are cameras anywhere, because sometimes we have ring cameras that pick up the accident. Sometimes we have businesses cameras that are surveillance video cameras that pick up the accident. Anything that you see like that will be relevant. The attorney can get that information later on, and we'll have an actual video of how the accident occurred. And avoid talking to the other driver's insurance. Some people are really intimidated in these situations. Some people are really intimidating in these situations. I've had people come up to my client's car and bang on the window and say, you pulled out of nowhere and you caused this accident, and they're crying, they're injured, they're stressed out. This man is banging on their window trying to fight them. These things do happen. But the police will make sure that you're protected, and that's another reason to call them. So get the police involved, protect yourself, make sure that the other person isn't aggressive before you're exchanging information. If not, the police will encourage that exchange of information to make sure that you have all the information you need. But don't talk to their insurance company. Their insurance company will reach out to you almost immediately after this accident if they do believe that their insured was at fault, and say, hey, we heard you were injured. That's so sad. Listen, we want to buy you some ziti. We want to pay you for your injuries by giving you a free dinner to Olive Garden. Is that cool with you? Just sign this paperwork, and you'll get $500 for you and your family to go out to Olive Garden on us. That's how much we care about you. That sounds, if you think you're not injured, like it might be an okay deal. But if you sign that release, there's nothing an attorney can do to undo that release. You have signed away your right to ever bring a lawsuit before you got medical care and before you got legal representation to make sure your rights were protected. Don't do it. Don't even talk to those insurance salespeople who are going to try to bully you into taking a deal that doesn't benefit you. It benefits them. So there's a lot of different types of insurance coverage, and I could talk for days about just that. It would make everyone so bored, and I'm not going to do it. But understanding a couple of them I think is really important, and I'm going to go over a couple of them. If you have questions about them and you want to ask more at the end, one-on-one or in front of the group, that's fine with me. But liability is what the state requires for drivers in Washington. Something like 1 out of 20 drivers in Washington already breaking that law, driving completely uninsured and can crash into you and have no insurance coverage at all. If they drive uninsured, the ticket for that is $550. If they get that ticket, they call an insurance company, they enroll in insurance, they pay a down payment, they fight the ticket, they say, look, I got insurance after. The judge, which I've been, says, I'll dismiss this ticket and only fine you $100 instead of $550. Then they go back to the insurance company and say, I need to cancel my insurance and get a refund. This is a very common thing because people can't afford insurance. They'd rather get the ticket and then go through this tricky back way of getting the ticket reduced and then getting the refund of the insurance than just pay for insurance. That's how expensive insurance has become. But it's not because of people who are injured getting the money that they deserve. It's because the insurance companies are bloated and they want to keep that money and they want to keep their profits record high every year and spend money on Super Bowl ads with their gecko and all this craziness. That's not actually important. Insurance is meant to protect people from being injured. Washington State requires that we all have liability coverage, and that minimum coverage is $25,000. So if you leave here and you talk to your insurance agent or whoever, you log into your app and you pull up something called your declarations page. That's the proof that you have insurance, declarations page or DEC page. It will show what coverage you have and what the liability limits are. In Washington, you're required to have $25,000. That's the minimum policy they'll sell you. And if you're from another state, you might not have that coverage, so look into that. If you have more than liability, which I frequently hear from people, they say, oh, I have full coverage. No problem, I have full coverage. Full coverage is like a made-up term. That's not a thing. Insurance companies might say, I'm going to get you on full coverage. And then you get the quote and you're like, ooh, this is kind of pricey. And they're like, here, sign these 2 forms and then we'll get you a cheaper rate if you sign these 2 forms. These 2 forms that they have you sign are a PIP waiver and a UIM waiver. Does anyone know what PIP or UIM stand for? Oh my gosh, yes, I'm so excited if you know either of those. Yes, wow, okay. Will you bring her a raised hand surprise? Personal injury protection, that's right. So in Washington State, it's mandatory to have personal injury protection coverage of $10,000 to cover your injuries regardless of fault. But did you know the insurance companies will have you sign a waiver and then they are allowed to take that insurance coverage off and provide you with a cheaper rate, and you think you're just getting a cheaper rate for your insurance? You're waiving your right to a required coverage. Washington says it is so important that you have PIP coverage that we're going to put it in the law, and the insurance company said, that's no problem, we'll just have people sign away that right. And they do it with UIM as well. What's UIM coverage? Anybody? Oh, yeah, shout it out, shout it out. Underinsured motorist. So it's uninsured or underinsured, but it's the same concept. If someone hits you and they didn't have any insurance, who do you sue? That person who didn't have money to pay for their own insurance? That's probably driving a 1970 Honda Civic? Like, what are you going to get from that person? If you're paralyzed, God forbid, by someone who's 1 out of 20 drivers in Washington State that has no coverage, there's no recourse unless you have UIM coverage. UIM means if you're hit by someone who's uninsured or underinsured, say they only have $25,000 in coverage, and your medical bills because you were airlifted to Harborview when they flipped your car, this semi-truck or whatever, if they only have $25,000 in coverage and your medical bills exceed $200,000, they're underinsured for the amount of injuries they've caused. The UIM coverage protects you in situations like that. It's so important, and so many people don't even know what it is. Because the insurance companies don't want you to know what it is, because if you understood these acronyms and these large legal terms, you'd know what your rights are, and you'd say, no, I'm not waiving the right to have UIM for $10 less of my payment every month. Put that back. Now, there's a really cool rule that is pretty specific, but I'm going to go into because I think it's important for, if it helps one person in this room ever in their life, it's important for me to say. Those waivers, the PIP waiver that if you signed it, they don't have to give you PIP, and the UIM waiver that if you signed it, they don't have to give you UIM, if they can't produce that written document, they're required to still give you the coverage, even if you never paid for it. So in every one of the situations where they tell me, oh yeah, sorry, your guy doesn't have UIM, he doesn't have PIP, I say, show me the waiver. And if they can't find it because some clerical error, they have to give you that $10,000 in coverage for PIP or $25,000 in minimum coverage for UIM. Required. It's the law. So if you sign something, make sure you're not keeping it, and if they can't find it later, then you might get that benefit. Really important, that's how detailed I want to go into for coverages: liability, PIP, and UIM. Understanding your coverage and what those coverage limits are is from your deck page. You can get that deck page on the app. If you have questions about what your deck page says, bring it up to me, show me your app, I'll explain it all to you right after this, okay? So there's a lot of legal protections that we discussed today. There's a lot of insurance tactics that we discussed today. But I really want to focus you guys on one thing. Insurance companies are a business. Their business is to make money. They make money by collecting premiums, not by paying out claims. The claims are what we make to get the benefit of what we paid for. But people have this guilt. They have this guilt of using the insurance that they're paying for like it's going to affect their rates. If you were in a car accident at no fault of your own and your rates go up, it's illegal. If you were in a car accident at no fault of your own, the insurance companies get around that rule by taking away your good driver discount. And that good driver discount is going to go off of your policy whether or not you make a claim against your own insurance. So I've had people who say, I don't want my rates to go up. I'm really worried that if I make a claim on my own insurance, even though the other guy only had $25,000 and I have $25,000 in medical bills and I still have to fix my car and all this stuff has affected my job and my marriage and all these things that have been affected by this car accident, I don't want to make a claim because my insurance is going to go up. But your insurance rates probably already went up by the time we're having this conversation. They just come up at the renewal. And the insurance rates are going to go up, what, $15, $20? And you're potentially stopping yourself from recovering a minimum of $25,000 more dollars. That's not good math to me. But a lot of attorneys don't even understand this portion of the process well enough to explain it to their clients so that they can make informed decisions about all this. So it's really intricate. It's really complicated. It's never going to get simple. They want it to be complicated, but find someone who can be a resource to you. Maybe it's this book. Maybe it's an attorney in your family. Maybe it's Simone because she's going to go to UW Law School very soon. But network with people and find resources because that's how you protect yourself, okay? We talked about documenting everything. We talked about avoiding insurance recorded statements. And we talked about filing a claim, which is something that the attorney does for you if you have one, but you have to do yourself if you don't get one. Has anyone ever called an insurance company and made a claim before? Raise your hand if you've ever made a claim on an insurance. All right. How long were you on hold? How long were you on hold?
Since August.
Still waiting for that call back, huh? Wow, super duper escalated. That they're really taking it seriously now, aren't they? That's a fun way to spend your free time, isn't it? I personally, I don't know about you guys, I prefer never to be on hold for the rest of my life ever again. And if there's a company that I don't have to pay that's going to be on hold for me and be smarter than me in the conversation that happens after being off hold, I'll take that all day long. Law firms will do the claim for you. You don't even have to call the insurance and open the claim. If that alone isn't enough reason to sign up with an attorney, I don't know what is. But being on hold, gathering all this information, finding claim numbers, keeping a notebook of all the documents that you need, it's pandemonium for someone who's never been through this process. Use an attorney to help guide you through this process and do all that extra work for you so you can focus on getting better, focus on figuring out how to get to work the next day, pick your kids up from school, all the important things that you need to figure out after someone crashes into you. How to find the right attorney. This is a part of my presentation that has gotten me into some trouble with some other attorneys in Tacoma, but I don't care. There are some attorneys all over the world, not just in Tacoma, but some specifically in Tacoma, that don't like what I'm about to talk about, and that's okay, I'm going to talk about it anyway. Who here assumes that if you're an attorney, you've been in a courtroom? It makes sense to assume that, right? If you're an attorney and you have hundreds or thousands of cases, you've been to court, right? Man, you guys are smarter than I was when I was new. No one assumes that. Good, because there are many attorneys who have never gone to court, and all they want to do is settle your claim as fast as possible so they can get a portion of how much you're entitled to, even if that means minimizing what you're entitled to move this case along. These kinds of law firms are called settlement mills, and the insurance companies love them because they minimize the value of your case based on your injuries. The insurance companies know that the best way to resolve your case is as soon as possible when they first call you for $500 and an Olive Garden coupon or something, whatever they offer you at the beginning of your case. The next best way is if they do have an attorney, that they hopefully hired an attorney, that the insurance companies keep these records, that has never gone to trial. Years of being an attorney, never gone to trial. Attorneys that spend a lot of money on marketing, like the insurance companies, but don't actually know how to be attorneys. And there are so many of these, you guys. I had a friend who left working with my firm because he didn't like my advice. And close friend at the time. He left working with my firm. He said, I know another lawyer who's going to take my case. I said, hey, man, all good. I'm not even gonna ask for like any money out of your case. Just do what you think is best for your life. You don't want to listen to my advice. You're my friend, so you think my advice is just like made up or something. You're not seeing me as this attorney. You're seeing me as your buddy. And you don't want to listen, so that's fine. Do your own thing. He called an attorney who practices bankruptcy law and retained this attorney who called my office. The attorney had gone to my website, and the attorney actually said to me, I really can't believe he would leave your firm to come to mine. This seems like a mistake. You definitely knew more about how to do this stuff than I do. And he was open and honest with me, not knowing that this was a close friend of mine that he was taking over the case for. And I was just flabbergasted that someone would be a bankruptcy attorney and think, I could probably do what you do. I could do it just as good as you. What do? You just call the insurance company and argue about money. That's easy enough. No, I don't want to share how that case resolved. But it's important to ask those questions. Not all attorneys do this type of law, but every attorney will take this type of case because they think it's an easy way to make money and they don't ever have to go to court. Because so many attorneys don't go to court when they do these cases. Many of these cases, even at my office, don't need a lawsuit to be filed. By opening a claim against the insured, the person who hit you, or a claim against your own insurance, that doesn't mean that you're automatically in a lawsuit. An insurance claim is not a lawsuit. A lawsuit is formal paperwork filed with the court that meets the RCWs, and you have a summons and a complaint and discovery, and you do depositions. That's what people expect when they hire an attorney. That's maybe, at my office, 10% of our cases. But that's because I'm aggressive with filing lawsuits. At many other law firms, it's 0% of their cases. They will drop you as a client before filing a lawsuit. That's not the type of attorney I'd want working on my case, but it's important to understand that those attorneys exist. They're in this community right now in Tacoma saying, I'm the best car accident guy in the world, hire me. And they're not. So keep that in mind. Why I love my job. I guess this is in closing. I've never had a career like this before where every single day when I wake up at home, I think, I wish I lived above my law firm so I could already be at work. I wish that I didn't have to drive at all and I could just immediately be working. And when I get to my office and it's 7 p.m. in the blink of an eye, I think I should eat dinner, but I should do a little bit more when I get home because I love what I do. It is an incredibly addicting feeling to, rather than collect money from my clients, to collect money from an insurance company that I believe has no legal right to keep this money from my client and to give it to my client and to exceed their expectations over and over and over again on how much money they're entitled to. I sleep like a baby and I'm excited to come do it. I do it every weekend just because I love it. I have staff of, I think, 35 or 40 people now at my firm, and I don't have to work weekends. I could take a vacation if I wanted to, but I'm like truly addicted to this job. And it's something that I think when people interact with me, it's very clear that I really am passionate about this, but I'm passionate about it because I've been through it, and I see what my peers are doing to this industry, and it kind of infuriates me a little bit, so I have to be the opposite of that. And I'm the opposite of that by educating people, by making sure you understand as much as I know about your case, and you know what your role is and how to be successful. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to questions. If you want to ask questions after we go off of the Zoom, that's fine too. I can answer private questions if you have any attorney-client privileged conversations you want to have. But I also, like I said, I did criminal defense, I did family law. I'm happy to answer quick questions about that stuff after the Q&A. But if anyone has any questions, or Simone, if anyone emailed questions, please raise your hand. Yes. You know, I've never had that happen, and hopefully with how technology is going, and I'm going to restate your question so everyone can hear it. She said, if you're in the middle of Mount Rainier and you don't have service and a car crash happens, how do you call police? I mentioned I've never had that happen. I'm sure it has happened, but as technology and cell phones and Starlink and all these crazy things happen, we're going to see less likely of that occurring because people's signal is better than it's ever been, and that technology is going to keep getting better. If you're in a situation where you cannot get a police report, you just do everything you can to document the situation. If you do have a cell phone that can record the person saying, I'm so sorry, I hate you. And that's going to be better than nothing. Because if they say later on, I never said that, and we show that video, the insurance company is going to change their tune real quick. But just think about it logically. If that other person was dishonest and they left after the accident and they were going to say that you were the person that caused the accident, how do you defend yourself from that situation? How do you protect yourself from ever being in that situation? By gathering as much evidence as you can about the truth of how the accident occurred. That is a really good question. If you're at fault, you're my enemy, and I don't want to talk to you. I'm just kidding. If you're at fault, your insurance company has a duty to defend you. If you don't have insurance, the attorney for the plaintiff will call you and say, did you really not have insurance? And even the bad ones will say, if you didn't have insurance, I'm not even going to go through with this case. Because I know if you didn't have money for insurance, You probably don't own a bunch of assets that I could collect from. We want to collect money from insurance companies, not people. And so we don't sue people. We sue insurance companies through their at-fault driver. But if you do have insurance and you caused an accident, you have to report that accident to your car insurance, and they provide the defense. So you, again, don't pay any money. You don't call a person like me, because that would create a conflict from me potentially representing the person that you hit. So I don't want to answer those phone calls. But your insurance company has a duty to defend you, and if it does go to litigation, they have a duty to hire an attorney to defend you, and that attorney, even though he represents the insurance companies and his investment is in what is best for the insurance company, and he does not care about you, he will probably, or she, or they will give you guidance on what to expect in the process. It'll probably just be minimal because they don't really work for you. They're just obligated to defend you and to prevent you from saying things that might hurt the insurance company's case. Yes?
What are features that you would like to see in the dash cam?
I just, right before coming here, watched a streetlight video. Video is awesome. Video is so much more powerful in telling a story than me saying, there was this motorcycle, right? And it was like going really fast, and I was going straight, and it was turning, and then I went straight, and it turned into my car. That doesn't really paint a picture. And that's the story that I get on these intake calls from regular people who don't know how to describe how an accident occurred, who might not have even been paying attention to the motorcycle. A street video of a camera of a motorcycle going straight and the other car turning left, and the motorcyclist hitting that car going 40 miles an hour and flying off of his motorcycle and doing like 4 flips in the air and then landing on the street. And the insurance company still in that situation says, your guy was probably speeding. That motorcyclist was going way too fast. Even though the car turning left is for sure the at-fault party. When you're thinking about fault always lies on the person who broke the rules of the road. And if you're just driving straight, you're always going to have the right of way. If someone broke a lane, if someone turned left in front of you, if someone merged, if whoever is the moving person is the person who's at fault. So think about that. If I'm turning left, I have a duty to yield. I have a duty to turn left when it's clear. There's a motorcyclist going straight. He's got a green light. The light turns yellow. He's in the intersection, and the car guns it left to try to make it in front of the motorcyclist and cuts him off. And the insurance company said, I don't know, I think this is just too gray. This is too gray. And my client has like $400,000 in medical bills. And this insurance company is like, we don't care. It's not our fault. Your guy shouldn't have been driving the motorcycle in that intersection. But dash cams, video footage, it's all wonderful. I think if everyone had a dash cam and we were able to access those dash cam videos regularly, it would make these conversations a lot easier to have. But I have a video of that accident, and the insurance company is still playing games. In those situations, we have potentially a bad faith lawsuit where they're just refusing for no good reason to offer the benefits to the person that was injured. So that goes into contract law and bad faith and what their duties are. But even in situations where we have video footage, it's not always a slam dunk. But video is worth more than just someone's statements, and that's why we do those video reconstructions at my firm, because it's easier for me to say, is this how the accident happened, and play a video, than it is for me to ask you, how did the accident happen? And for you to be like, well, do you have like a toy car? Well, this pen was me, and this book was the other guy, and the book went through, that's what everyone tries to do, and it's so complicated. So we make an actual animation. And if you're interested in seeing one of those animations, Simone and Prerna here can show those to you after the presentation. Great question. Yes? It sure was. That is a question we talked about at my office. My main office is in Kent. And for the first time in the history that I've been in car accidents, there was a 40-car pileup on I-5 in Kent. And my firm was like, what do we even do if one of these people call us? Like, who's the person who pays for everybody else? But in situations like that, it wasn't one car that stopped and then 39 cars behind in a chain reaction. It was like one car that stopped maybe, and then there's a pod of people that crashed because of that person, and someone else was following too closely, and then another accident occurs, and that's why there were 40 cars. So every one of those pods of accidents has their own tortfeasor. The at-fault party is called the tortfeasor, and they'll have plaintiffs who would all make a claim against that tortfeasor for causing that accident. And so thankfully, you weren't in that accident, because that is going to be a nightmare for the attorneys involved, for all of the people involved. If you're ever in an accident, the more parties that are involved, more cars rather that are involved, the more complicated your car accident gets because of those policy limit issues. The maximum that the insurance company will pay out if the person who caused the accident has minimum coverage is $25,000 per person or $50,000 per accident. So in a situation where one guy caused a 40-car collision, everyone would have to split $50,000. Every person in that accident might have to split $50,000. And that's if he had insurance. What if he didn't have coverage? And you signed a waiver and you don't have UIM. Then you're in a 40-car accident and you just got to figure out how to pay the tow bill on your own and fix your car on your own, and hopefully your back and your neck don't hurt, and hopefully you didn't miss any work, and hopefully someone's got a spare car for you to drive. Like, it's a nightmare if you don't have the right coverage, but they make the coverage complicated on purpose. Simone, did we get any online submissions? If anyone who's watching via Zoom wants to send a question, I think we put the email in the chat. Please feel free to email questions, and I'll stick around for a little bit. But if no one has any other questions, thank you so much. Please read the book. If you'd like me to autograph it, I'm happy to autograph it for you. And if you end up taking business law next quarter, I'm happy to give you a 4.0 in advance. Thank you.